Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaylina and this is the Magic Society. And this next grouping of videos is going to be split up into bite-sized pieces because I am talking about and sort of reviewing the Body Astrology, A Cosmic Guide to Health, Healing, and Harnessing the Power of the Planets by Claire Gallagher. And this is what the book looks like. And I got this book at HomeGoods, and when I first picked it up, I was like, yeah, this is really interesting. Astrology is, and like the zodiac signs and all of that, the planets and everything, I love working with that. And even though it's incredibly complicated. So, when I picked up this book at first, I was like, I don't know, is this going to be like a actual like helpful reference guide to astrology? You know, if you get it at HomeGoods, you gotta kind of question it a little bit, but I've actually been very surprised so far of how much I've been enjoying reading it. And she's got a Hellenistic viewpoint as well as a Chinese medicine like background, so, and she's also like a fitness like instructor as well, so she actually knows her stuff. So I was happy to read that because I was just like, you never know, you know, you never know. And I want to make sure I'm reading and promoting good material and not bad material. So, but with astrology, obviously it's very complicated. There's a lot that goes into it. And so by splitting these up, it's going to make them very bite-sized and manageable so that people can, you know, take what they like, leave what they don't, and maybe be able to add a little bit more astrology into their life. Because I really do feel like the energies of the planets and where they're aligning and what signs they're going through can kind of impact the way our bodies are feeling and maybe some of our moods. I mean, it's no mystery that a lot of the times on a full moon, people will just feel different. And throughout history, we've seen that on full moons, there's just a weird energy. Like, there's just more chaos in the air and a little bit more unsettledness. And I find the most that the spiritual activity at where I work always acts up during the full moon. Like, way more so than some of the other times. So I definitely think that there is truth to it, despite some people are probably going to poo-poo on this, and that's totally fine. If you don't believe it, if you have no interest in it, don't watch it. Totally understand. It's not everybody's thing. But for those that are interested in astrology, but maybe don't want to like totally deep dive into huge books that are just confusing and very mentally heavy, this video might be for you. So we're gonna start out she has it in different sections, so we're just gonna go through section 1 and talk about some things, and then I'll make another video incorporating some more of the book until we get to the end of it. So she talks about quantities, which this is kind of, you find this like in Ayurveda, and you also find this in Chinese medicine as well. And so that's like your different hot, cold, dry, and wet. And each of those things mean different things. So hot can speed things up, cold will slow things down, dry is going to separate things and bring definition, clarity, and solidity to something. And then wet mixes together and makes the body more pliable, soft, and relaxed. But too much can erode the boundaries and make it vulnerable. So within each of those, you also have your element that goes along with it, as well as your different signs of each element that fits within that certain thing. So hot and wet are going to equal your air. And so your air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Next you have hot and dry, which is going to be your fire signs. These are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Then you have cold and dry, which is your earth signs, which is Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And then lastly, you have cold and wet, which is your water signs, and those are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. So you also have different modes, which that is common in normal astrology as well. They're going to be your fixed energies, which moves consistently. Your fixed signs are going to be Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. Your cardinal signs, sorry, blanked on the word right in front of my face. Your cardinal signs are going to move directly and forcefully. These are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And then you have your mutable energy, which is flexible and adaptable. And these signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Even though if you ask me, being a Virgo, I mean, I guess I'm fairly flexible, but there are some things where I'm just not flexible at all in. So the next part that she kind of goes into and starts to talk about is your astrology triad. And that is just basically your sun, moon, and rising sign. And that's a really good place to start out with because those are your three main signs. Of course, the other signs in your chart are going to come into play too, but these are kind of your three main ones. And so she talks about that and how each one represents something. So for instance, your sun is going to be more of your spiritual side. Your moon is all about the rhythms and ebbs and flows and your circadian rhythm as well. It also deals with digestion and hormones. And it also represents physicality, structure, immunity, and resilience. Sorry, rising represents your physicality, structure, immunity, and resilience. Something else that she mentions is if you have a bunch of planets within one area. That is called a stellium, and she said that that can impact your chart and the way your health is even more so than sometimes your sun sign. So if you do have that, kind of keep your eye out for that. Then she goes in and talks about the three a little bit more individually. So your sun is obviously not everything within your chart, despite what some people think, but it is kind of like your vital force and your generator for all things. And if your sun energy goes out, it's kind of game over. Your moon is going to describe your unique way of using energy, and it focuses on digestive health, and it also changes daily and reflects daily rhythms, including mood, appetite, fluid levels, workout performance, and hormonal shifts. So I don't know about you, but as a woman, I feel like the moon impacts me a lot because my hormonal shifts are all over the place. It is never balanced out whatsoever. Yeah, it's a joy to be around me. Lastly, your rising sign can play a role in immunity and nourishing. It may keep the good things in and the bad things out. So it makes me kind of wonder if sometimes, like, I need to focus more on my rising sign, which is Scorpio, because I do feel like my immunity is not always the highest. So that's a personal note for myself. Then there's two other planets that she kind of focuses on, at least in this section. So she talks about Mars and Saturn, and she says that these kind of reign hot and cold. So Mars is going to deal with like your heat, and it can cause inflammatory and aggravating, agitating, and acute symptoms. Saturn is more on the cold side, so it's going to be things that constrict and weakens things, as well as like chronic symptoms. So they can definitely play a part in creating roadblocks within your health. So kind of keep an eye out for those as well. Next, she goes into your houses, and just like in regular astrology, there are certain houses that represent certain things within your health. And so your first house deals with your entire body. So this involves resilience, vitality. The nutrition, fitness sections in the science section may come like naturally to you. So then you have your sixth house, which represents your daily body. So this can include larger accidents and illnesses, but usually it's just the run-of-the-muck kind of aggravations that we go through in life. It can also include your daily self-care priorities, habits, and routines. Next up is your eighth house, which is your chronic body. So this is more intense or long-term possible health concerns, such as certain treatments or surgeries even. And sometimes it can be quite intense, almost crucible-like in nature, where it can be psychological suffering, death, birth, survival, purification, and regeneration. So this can be a little bit heavy. It also deals with underlying mental, emotional patterns, societal or familiar conditioning, or even subconscious themes to explore as part of your healing. So, like I said, it's a pretty intense house. Lastly, your 12th house is all about your hidden body. So this could involve isolating situations that almost kind of draw you away from friends and family at times, or just society and life in general. Like your sleep, your spirituality, sexual and mental health goes into this. It can be hard to understand certain elements of this house, and it can bring change and perhaps even misdiagnosis or treatment. And sometimes self-sabotage even is found in this house as well. So throughout the book, Claire mentions something called elemental balancing. And so you can use the opposing elements to help balance something out in your body. So fire and water generally balance each other out, and air and earth balance each other out, which makes logical sense in my opinion. If you have too little or too much of something, for example, if you have too much water, it might create gut issues and sadness, while too much fire can really dry things up. So you can use the opposing elements to help balance your body. So also within astrology, there are also sign pairs. These are your polarities, so they sit directly 180 degrees across from each other in your birth charts. And although in normal astrology these are usually kind of like the opposites and they don't always get along particularly well, in this book we're really trying to pair them up as a team. You want to work as a team with these. And your pairs are going to be Aries and Libra, Taurus and Scorpio, Gemini and Sagittarius, Cancer and Capricorn, Leo and Aquarius, and Virgo and Pisces, which I find really funny actually, because Virgo is my sun sign and my dad is a Pisces. So it's like, but yet we get along really well. And then Taurus and Scorpio, my mom is a Taurus. My mom is a Taurus and my rising sign is a Scorpio. So you would think that we would kind of butt heads as well, but we don't. So I just found that kind of interesting that those are technically the polarities, which I've read about that before, but I guess it just hit me now seeing it again that that's really interesting that I didn't butt heads with them more growing up. Alright, so the next section is kind of an astral seasonal living. So there are 3 kind of main groups that she discusses about how you can line your health up with different astral areas throughout the seasons. So she talks about your solar and other planetary cycles, which literally means transits. The next is your lunar cycle and how you compare the lunar cycle with what kinds of food and what kind of movements your body needs throughout the month. And the last one is literally your birth chart itself, which includes how you may think and feel about food and movement, how your body receives and processes food and movement, as well as your physical strengths, weaknesses, blocks, and nourishment. So then she goes into more detail about your lunar phases and how you can work with them. Now, it's probably a little bit easier to work with the lunar phases, just the lunar phases, and not to necessarily, pay attention to what sign the moon is in, just due to the fact the moon changes signs every 2.5 days. So that might be a little bit much to keep up with. At least I'm definitely not doing that. But just the lunar phases themselves, you could definitely work with that to kind of, what does it hurt to see if it kind of helps your body? And each phase of the moon has different energy to it. Okay, so then each moon phase also represents an element. So your first quarter represents fire, full moon is earth, last quarter is water, and then the moon phases obviously go for about 29 days. Your first quarter moon and your waxing phase, New moon and first quarter moon are your waxing phase, and your full moon and last quarter are your waning phases. Sorry, I discovered the fact on Word that you can like record your voice to create your notes, which is really nice in a lot of ways, because I took a ton of notes from this book, but like going through each page and like rewriting down all the notes is not super handy. But it also just clumps things in big paragraphs, and some of them I've went through and separated, but then some of them they're still just giant clumps, and I'm like, my eyes are not focusing right. Okay, another cool tip that she talked about is human nature to wax and wane throughout our month or our day, and that society has made it seem unhealthy, which I think I've already mentioned earlier in the video about that, but I just thought that was really cool that she talked about that it is okay not to be on point 100% of the time. It's okay not to have your A game every minute of every day all the time. Like, it's just not feasible to keep up with that kind of endurance. The moon also governs our ability to digest, which goes even beyond just food. So this also deals with how we process emotions, stress, as well as exercise. The current moon can reflect how much stress, whether positive or negative, that we can process at any given time. So let's actually go into the phases. Your first phase is your new moon. This also includes the waxing crescent, and it represents your air element. Along with that, each of these correspond with like a certain part of your body. So this deals with your blood and nervous as well as your respiratory systems. And then she also sets kind of a theme for each section as well. So in this one, it's all about setting a tone. So throughout this time, you don't want to overdo things. Like, you are setting the pace for the rest of the month. So if you go super hard at the beginning, you are going to have zero energy by the time you get to the end. You want to be consistent and, like I said, not overdo it. This is also kind of where you may be running on fumes from the previous cycle, so you aren't going to necessarily feel like just hitting it really hard right off the get-go. You may still feel a little tired and like you don't have tons of energy, and that is okay. So your movement during this phase is going to feel revived, and you're gonna start to kind of pick up momentum as the moon starts getting fuller in the sky. Sorry. So like movement during this time, you are going to want to do light exercises that creates a sweat and that will elevate your heartbeat as well as your breath rate. But she said, as an example, if you're exercising and somebody asks you a question, you're still going to be able to answer it without like hyperventilating and not being able to breathe. So it's lighter. It's not so hardcore. Something to consider in the nutrition area of the new moon is the hunger signals your body may be sending to you. So if you have poor concentration, lightheadedness, anxiety, clumsiness, and body weakness, listen to your body during this time, because it's probably telling you that it needs something. Now for me, okay, camera died as usual, so I am going to finish out the rest of this video. We were talking about the new moon first. The last piece of advice I wanted to talk about the new moon was that if you work with the moon, you know that the new moon is all about bringing stuff in versus subtracting things. So with that being said, during this time, you do not want to start a brand new diet or start some kind of compulsive, really hardcore exercise program, because odds are it's probably going to fail. So, and honestly, I don't recommend dieting anyway, just because any living person I've ever talked to who has gone on a diet just ends up being kind of disappointed about it. So And I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a doctor, so, you know, if you are having any physical symptoms, please go talk to your doctor. If you are having a lot of gut problems, I definitely suggest maybe discussing with the dietitian, but find one that will actually listen to you, because everybody's body is different and what works for one person is not going to work for another. And honestly, in my own realm, it's been a frustrating experience just because, like I said, everyone's different, and sometimes I feel like some, not all, some dietitians get so stuck in kind of categories of keto, vegetarian, you know, paleo, that they don't look at the individual as an individual. They just try to group them in whatever category they think might work best. And as someone who has a lot of stomach issues due to their pancreas not working, dietitians I personally did not find overly helpful. But a lot of people are not going to have that problem. So if you're having physical symptoms, please go see a doctor, okay? Next, I want to talk about the first quarter moon, which includes your waxing gibbous. Your element is fire. It also deals with your metabolism, muscular, and cardiovascular systems. So your theme during this time is going to be all about creating momentum. And ideally, you're going to be feeling fairly refreshed during this phase. It might be a really great time to start laying the foundation from the new moon. You may feel like you're strong enough to add a bit more challenge into your regimens. So maybe adding a little bit more weight to your lifting, maybe running a little bit further, running a little bit faster. All these things are gonna maybe be a good time for that. Just make sure that you're starting a healthy kindling, and you're not burning yourself out, because you're still going to have to take this momentum and use it moving forward. Nutrition during this time is all about energizing yourself. So life may feel a little bit busy right now. Your metabolism is going to be hopefully at its peak. So it's important to give yourself a lot of the healthy, good food that your body needs. During this phase, we may also feel a little bit stressed, less resilient than usual. And you could definitely be heading for like a full-on full moon crash if you don't take care of yourself during this time. So make yourself a priority. You're going to want to focus on foods that promote kind of energy, and pay attention again to your hunger signs. So if you're getting the traditional just gnawing like feeling, as well as like irritability, a headache, sweating, muscle twitches even, and sometimes even as serious as heart palpitations. So if you're noticing any of this, be sure that you are getting yourself good nutrition. So next you have your full moon, and this is going to include your waning gibbous. Your element is your earth element, and it includes your skeletal, digestive, and integumentary systems. Your theme is to maintain your momentum at this time, and sometimes we can feel like a bit overwhelmed. This phase of our life is all about taking on what is most important and not so much saying yes to everything. You want to really prioritize what you're saying yes to. This phase is always usually associated with the harvest, so you're wanting to put purpose into storing the energy versus using it all up, because you're definitely going to use that energy, just like the other phases, into the ending phases where you maybe don't have as much energy during those times. Full moons can make you feel supercharged, so it's kind of hit and miss. Some people don't like doing anything on a full moon. Some people feel super charged up and they want to hit it hard on a full moon. Listen to your body as always and kind of decide. But do not be surprised that if right after the full moon your body feels kind of sore and maybe a little achy. That's not uncommon. The body can also feel just a level of exhaustion. And I definitely feel that just in general with the full moon. The energy is always just a little off. People are chaotic, work is chaotic, spirit activity is higher. And sometimes you just get just strange things that happen, just weird things that you're like, oh, it must be the full moon. And I do notice that. And God only helps you if there's any other kind of planetary energy going along with it. So during this time, if you are feeling kind of that body pain and stiffness, be sure to add in more recovery stuff into your regiment. So increase your warm-ups, increase your cool-downs, opt for gentler movement maybe that encourages your emotional and physical circulation. Nutrition is all about focusing on being satisfied, which I personally love. So celebrate yourself and maybe give yourself that little treat that you don't always, feel good eating. This is the time to do that. And so often people have such a weird relationship with food, even though it's a very vital aspect of what makes up our bodies. So get comfortable with being satisfied with your food. What does it feel like to feel full and satisfied and pleasurable with food? What does it feel like to you? And some people are gonna really struggle with this because a lot of people have a tricky relationship with food. And so for once, allow yourself to be okay with enjoying food, And there are certain symptoms that you'll feel if you aren't satisfying yourself during this time. You could feel just a sadness or a fatigue. You could feel cold in your joints and they could be painful. Even overeating during this time could be a symptom if you aren't taking care of yourself. So don't restrict yourself. Don't forbid yourself from certain things. As I always like to say, and a lot of other people like to say, moderation. It's that balance, just like everything else in life. It's also been proven, literally proven in science by scientists, that when we don't eat and we starve ourselves, first of all, you retain more fat. Second of all, it's this very primal fear that our body goes into, thinking, oh my God, we're not going to have enough food to last the winter or whatever. And your body starts holding on to things because it's afraid it doesn't know when the next meal is going to come. So when you deprive yourself, you actually make things worse. And that's actually been scientifically proven. And lastly, we have our last quarter moon, which includes waning crescent. Your element is your water element. And this includes your endocrine, immune, and lymphatic systems, as well as your emotions. Theme is to pause and make space. During this time, there may be a bit of an emptiness kind of feel, but it's really good for completion, as well as pausing and also learning to slow the hell down, because I know a lot of people, especially in society today, it's all about go, 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 go. And we never pause. We never take a break. We don't breathe. We just keep going until we literally hit the wall. And so we need to get that back. We need to find the rhythm, the ebbs and flows. There's times to work hard and there's times to relax and slow down and smell the goddamn roses, In fact, it encourages in the book that at this time, slowing down and pausing is actually the most efficient thing you can do. Just think about it. If you're going on burnout, your lack of sleep, you're not eating right, what is that going to do to your body full long term? You may always be able to sustain this somewhat level of energy, but it's going to be low energy and it's not going to be your best work. So if you allow yourself that extra hour of sleep, if you allow yourself that healthy meal that's going to satisfy you, then you're going to be a lot more productive in life. So this phase is all about flexibility and, like I said, slowing down. This phase, in fact, encourages you to maybe take less on in your schedule, just because maybe your body can't handle it. This is how we have, breakdowns in our bedrooms where we sit on the floor and cry about something for a good 10 minutes and then, drag ourselves to the mirror, put a smile on our face, and go to work for, 7 hours, 8 hours. And it's not good for your body. It's not good for your body. Movement during this time is also all about flexibility. This is a water phase, so focus on the movement of your body, the fluidity, like dancing, and even I feel like swimming would be a good option too during this time. Anything that involves the mobility. In nutrition, you're going to want to feel nurtured, so rather when the moon wanes, the focus pivots from external world to the internal world. So what I mean by this is maybe you don't want to watch every stinking exercise guru on the internet because, while yes, they may have some really good fitness advice and some good nutritional advice, their advice is still, their body is maybe going to be different from yours. And so when you do this to an unhealthy extent, you're going to watch these people that you really admire. You're going to try and do everything that they're doing, and then you're going to notice that it's not working for your body. And so what are you going to do? You're going to get frustrated, and then you're going to just give up. And then you're going to feel bad about yourself, which is not the way to go. So if you're feeling like that, turn inside. Listen to your own gut. Listen to your own inner voice. And see if you can decipher what it's telling you it needs. I feel like I've told this story before on my channel, but when I was going through the whole fibromyalgia stuff, like, I've been a vegetarian my entire life. Like, ever since I was 5 years old, I've been a vegetarian. And I'm not saying vegetarian is right, vegan's right, it's whatever works for your body is right. So, but my point being, while I was going through that, my body was literally, every time I drove by a chicken place, which is funny because even when I was like younger than 5, I never had chicken. I always like maybe a hot dog or pepperoni at best, which isn't great for your body either. But, when you're 3 or whatever, a hot dog every once in a while isn't going to kill you. But the fact was, I never really had chicken. So, and obviously, at 3 years old, literally, 5 is when I officially became a vegetarian. But at 5 years old, I guess my mind could remember what that stuff tasted like. But then when I got into the fibromyalgia, my brain literally, every time I drove by a Chick-fil-A or McDonald's, my brain was like, you want chicken. You want it now. Go get chicken. I'm like, what the heck? I have not had chicken since 5 years old. Why is my body telling me I want this? I've never had it since then. And so sure as heck, I was like, all right, I guess we'll listen to this, even though vegetarian always worked for me. And I even tried going vegan too for a while because I was like, okay, well, maybe it's the dairy, and I'm one step away from it anyway, being a vegetarian. Oh my gosh, here we go again. There we go. I'm one step from being vegan anyway. Might as well give it a go. I felt so terrible being on a vegan diet. Absolutely awful. I had zero energy, and that's saying something considering when you first start having fibro, your body just doesn't know what it's doing with itself. And so I was already tired, but that made it so much worse. Zero energy, felt sick all the time, because the thing with a lot of vegan items is that a lot of them have soy in it, and the problem also was that when I was incorporating a lot more vegetables and stuff, the way my pancreas problem, it was causing it not to be able to digest certain vegetables. So things that you would think would be like super healthy and really good for you didn't work for my body. So it was a whole process. So yeah, sometimes I have a little bit of meat. I don't personally love it, but you know, when you've been a vegetarian your entire life and then all of a sudden like your body like wants you to have meat, it's weird, but it's also given me a lot more openness to other people's approaches, you know, and being very open-minded in regards to, yeah, some people may need more meat in their life. I may personally not like that personally, but their body may need that, you know. Some people do brilliantly on vegan and they can sustain that, and that's great. So that's why I'm like, listen to your body, because it really will tell you what it wants, because it definitely was telling me that and I guess it really, when it came down to it, it was probably just saying that my body needed protein. So, but it was crazy. It was weird, and sometimes it still happens where my body will, because I mean, I'm vegetarian. I'm gonna be one of those people that vegetarians get pissed off at, but 99% of the time I'm still a vegetarian. Like, that's just my preference. That's what I've always been. But that 1%, when my brain tells me that I need it, I listen to it. I mean, God bless the chickens, but like, you know, what are you gonna do? Like, your body will communicate with you. And so, yeah. Anyway, this is also a good time to just kind of slow down as well. And for those people that just love to constantly go, this may cause physical and emotional discomfort at first, but kind of push through it and, you know, embrace it, because even the biggest badass in the corporate world is going to burn out if they don't take care of themselves. So wherever you're at, I hope this video was at least a little bit helpful. We're gonna end it there. The next video will dive deeper into each of the zodiac signs, because each zodiac sign has a different way of interpreting food and movement as well. And you definitely kind of see some of the Chinese medicine, and I feel like even Ayurveda a little bit as well in this, which I've read some on both subjects, but by no means am an expert at it. So, but I definitely see a lot of themes in this book matching up very nicely with those two topics as well. So we will talk about that next time. If you like my videos, please like, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section. I love to have deeper conversations with people about topics such as this. And as always, be kind, stay curious, always speak your truth, and I will see you next time for another video.